Isaiah chapter 57 verses 17 and 18. For the iniquity of his covetousness, I was angry and struck him. I hid and was angry, and he went on backsliding in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways, and will heal him. I will also lead him and restore comforts to him and to his mourners. For the iniquity of his covetousness, I was angry and struck him. What did he do? I struck him. I hid and was angry, and he went on backsliding in the way of his heart. I have seen his ways and will heal him. I will also lead him and restore comforts to him and to his mourners. In another Bible translation in Korean, it says like this: For his extreme selfishness, I was angry. I struck him because of my anger, and I hid. Though he betrayed me and went the way of his heart, I have seen his ways. I watched him. I will heal him, restore comforts to him, and encourage him. Here it says, I struck him. If the Almighty God, our Father, strikes us, do you think He'll slap us or flick us with His finger? It says here, I struck him, I struck him. If the Almighty God who created this whole universe, would He slap us or flick us? If He flicks us, we'll disappear. Don't you think so? He's the Almighty God who created this whole universe. What happens if He flicks us with His finger? So when it says, I struck him, it doesn't mean He hit us. Because His children were so selfish, He said He was angry and He struck us. But if we have the bit of selfishness and greed, can we go to heaven or not? We can't go in the least bit. Even if we have the tiniest bit of selfishness in our hearts, we can't go to heaven. But we are sitting with so much greed because our daddy cannot bear to watch us. He says, hey, how can you go to heaven and live with me if you're so selfish? And he pushed the forehead of his son lightly. He pushed lightly and said, how can you be like that? But his son says, oh, daddy, he punished me. He hit me. And he complained and he ran away. Our daddy said, where is he going? Where is he running off to? And he watched where he was going. He thought his son returned, but instead he disappeared. Then our daddy became desperate. All of you, my son has disappeared. Get the signposts, set them up everywhere, put them all on the turns. And he became so nervous because his son ran away. However, instead of returning, my people are bent on backsliding from me. Though they call to the Most High, none at all exalt Him. Would those churches say, even if the true God speaks to us in the Elijah Gospel Institute, I will not go there, but I will stay in my churches. And they make up their mind to die. They're determined to die. So our Father goes and cries, and He runs after them. In Hosea chapter 11, verses 8 and 9, we can see Him running after His children in tears. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I make you like Admah? How can I set you like Zeboim? My heart churns within me. My sympathy is stirred. I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not man, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come with terror. Another translation of the Bible says it in this way: how can I give you up, Ephraim? And this is our Father crying out with tears to His son running away. He's pleading to them. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? You are my son. You are my joy. How can I make you like Admah? How can I set you like Zeboim? My heart churns within me. My sympathy is stirred. I will not execute the fierceness of my anger ever again. How can I ever destroy Ephraim? Again, for I am the God of love, not man. I am the Holy One in your midst. I didn't come to terrorize you, but to take you to heaven with me. Even if we have the slightest bit of selfishness and greed in our hearts, we cannot go to heaven. But His son is so filled with selfishness and greed. So He tells this foolish child, my son, how can you be so selfish and lightly pushed his forehead. But this son ran away. That's why our daddy watched to see where he's going, and finally he disappeared. So our father ran after him, chasing him, saying, Ephraim, Ephraim, Israel, how can I give you up? How can I hand you over to Satan? You are my son. You are my child. And after our daddy catches up with him, he hangs on to him by his clothes and pleads with him, how can I make you like Admah? How can I set you like Zeboim? I'm on the verge of becoming insane after losing Admah and Zeboim. You're the only one I have left. If I lose you, then how will I live? I cannot live without you. And it's our daddy begging him, I've changed my heart. I'm overwhelmed with sympathy for you. How can our father change his heart? We should change our heart, not him. Our father didn't do anything wrong. But he pleads with us, I've changed my heart. I promise I'll never punish you again. I beg you, don't leave. Were we forgiven because we asked for forgiveness first? He first came to us and forgave us. He came to us and begged forgiveness from us first, telling us not to leave him. But these unworthy children, they reject him. They hit off his hand and they go. How could they do that? Every time I think about my father like this, when I imagine it, my heart feels like it's going to explode and tear to pieces. For 6,000 years, all we did was sin and act like animals. Even animals can't commit the sins that we committed. But he says, no, you're not an animal, you're my son. And he lightly pushed our foreheads. But anyone, raise your hand if you bled from his chastening and his punishment. All he did was comfort us, feed us, and allow us to rest. Yet his children run away. So our daddy runs after them saying, Ephraim, Ephraim, Israel, how can I give you up? I'm about to die after I lost Admah, and I'm on the verge of going insane after losing Zeboim. You're the only child I've left, and how can I lose you as well? Let's go together. Let's go to heaven together. I did wrong. I'm sorry. I've changed my heart. Can you picture him begging on his hands and knees? He is urgently pleading with us. Of course, he would lick our feet if he had to. He even died for us. So, if he died for us, then begging for us to not leave him is nothing. How could I ever execute the fiercest of my anger again, Ephraim? How could I ever destroy you again? For I am the God of love and not man. I am your father. I am the Holy One in your midst. I came not to destroy you, but to take you with me. Please don't run away. Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 19. But I said, how can I put you among the children and give you a pleasant land, a beautiful heritage of the hosts of nations? And I said, you shall call me my father and not turn away from me. How can I put you among the children and give you a pleasant land, a beautiful heritage of the host of nations? And I said, you shall call me my father and not turn away from me. This Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 19 is our father's desperate plea with tears. Even though you want to leave because I push your forehead, please stay. Whatever it takes, I'll put you among the children and give you a pleasant land, a beautiful heritage of the host of nations. I will give you heaven. So just don't depart from me. Just call me Father. Call me your real Father. Can't you do this? Is he asking you to suffer extreme hardships as the Israelites did? Or to live a life of a slave? No, he's just telling us to sit here comfortably and not leave him. And whatever he has to do, he's promised to take us to heaven, to the paradise. So he's telling us not to leave him. Even though the father is holding on to him and holding on to his clothes and begging for forgiveness, they still knock his hand away. And they say they don't need him. Sometimes I can't sleep at night thinking about my father. Why did he give birth to these children and go through such hardships? Parents who have misbehaving children, they say, I don't know why he was ever born. All he does is tear my heart apart. Our daddy's the same. He gave birth to these children only to be disgraced and humiliated in every way, to sacrifice himself. He went through the disgrace of dying naked in front of the whole world, in front of the whole universe. And parents who have rebellious children suffer all sorts of shame and disgrace. They go through shame and disgrace by their neighbors every time the children are taken to jail. The parents go to the police station. They are embarrassed. It's not the parents' fault. It's the children's fault. But our real Father went the same kind of shame and disgrace in front of the whole universe. So if we disgraced our daddy, then we should at least know his heart. But instead, we kick him away. We knock his hands from us and we go. How can we do that? Once, there was a very tender-hearted young woman. This young woman was married to a man who was the only son, the only child in the family. In countries like Korea, when a girl gets married to a man who's the only son in the house, the only child in the family, sometimes she'll receive a lot of love, but in most cases, it's exactly the opposite. Some mothers love their daughters-in-law, but in most cases, they become very jealous of having their son loving someone else and the son's love going to another woman. Because they raised their son with their whole heart and their whole life. So they can't stand the thought of losing their son's love to someone else. And so there are mothers who chase out their daughters-in-law. And this family was the same. Of course, there are some who love their daughters-in-law more than their own daughters, but in most cases, it isn't so. But this was the same for this family. And this man and this woman, they loved each other very much, and they were happy to be together. But this son's mother could not bear to watch them be together. She was so jealous, and it was frightening. And after a while, this couple had a child, a son. Perhaps the mother's jealousy would disappear, but it became worse. This mother-in-law hated her like an enemy. And this mother-in-law made all kinds of false accusations, and in the end, she was kicked out of the house. There's a saying that says, forced separation makes nature weep. This is our Father's sorrow. The tears in nature are our Father's tears. That forced separation that broke apart that holy union made nature cry and made our Father cry. And when He weeps, all of nature weeps. Anyway, this daughter-in-law was in such pain and agony and sorrow because she was falsely accused and chased out of the house. So she decided to commit suicide. She went up to the top of a mountain and she was going to jump off the cliff, but all she could think of is the smiling face of her baby son. And it made her go crazy. If she died, she would never be able to see him again. But she thought that maybe if she lived, someday she'll be able to see him sometime. So she decided not to commit suicide, but live. So she only decided to live, hoping that someday she'll be able to see her son. So as a result, she did not marry anyone else, but remained alone. loving her former husband and her son. And she became an elementary school teacher. She wasn't sure she'd ever meet him, but she just dreamed for the day that she would. Many, many years passed. And it was the time when her son should be about 7 and attend elementary school. So she went to the superintendent of schools for the province, and she was able to move to the school in her son's district. So she went to the school where her son is to attend. She finally waited and she saw her son walking to school with his father. She wanted to run to her son and hug him, but she couldn't. And during this time, this man married another woman. And that was because his mother made him marry someone else. So anyway, because this woman didn't want to break her husband's happiness or her son's happiness, she made up her mind never to expose her true identity to them. She wanted to run to him, hug him, and cry, but she resisted her urge to do so. So she just watched from far away. A few days later, she went to the principal's office and she asked if she could be assigned to the first grade class where her son was in. So she became the teacher in charge of her son. But she noticed that when he came to school, that his lunch was only barley rice, and his clothes were filthy and like a beggar, and it wasn't even washed properly. And even his shoes had a hole and his big toe would stick out. He looked so pitiful. So this mother, through another student, bought him clothes and shoes, even underwear. But her son was suffering from malnutrition. You know, this young boy's father, because his mother chased out the woman that he loved and was forced to marry someone else, he didn't care. And he was not happy. All he did was just drink. So he doesn't get a job. And all he does is drink all day long. So the family is a mess. And the family is very poor. That's why this father can't even clothe or feed this young boy well. So this mother, through another student, bought her son clothes and shoes, pretending that she knew nothing about it. But her son's face looked very awful, and he had malnutrition for sure. And he was a growing boy. He should eat a lot of food, but he was only eating barley rice. So she thought about it, and she made a plan. She called him and said, "From tomorrow, you'll exchange lunches with me." "No, I don't. I want to eat my lunch." "No, you have to obey." So from that day on, he'd bring his lunch to the teacher's room and say, "I am so-and-so from class. I'm here to exchange lunch." And later, he became used to it, and he wasn't even ashamed later. And it was as if he came to pick up a lunch. He said, "I'm here to take my lunch." So she'd pack a very big lunch for him that contained all kinds of nutritious foods. And every day, she would give this food to him. But he was very intelligent. He was always the top of the class. So from first grade to sixth grade, he was always the top of his class. But a long time ago, it was too difficult to go to junior high school. And in a certain district, there's only a couple people who went to high school. Ask the elderly people. At the time, if someone was a junior high school student, then everybody would stare. That's how rare it was for most children to become junior high school students. So most people can't go to junior high school. Then how can he even think about going to junior high school? Of course, he studies well, but he's too poor. So this mother, again, through another person, through another student, he paid tuition so he can go to junior high school. This student was thinking, oh, I wish I could only go to junior high school. And when he was allowed to go, when he got the money, he said, oh, I dreamed to go to school. Now, my dreams are fulfilled. And he was so happy. But strange enough, every time he needed something, someone who he didn't know, kept on giving him things. Notebooks, tuition, spending allowance. And even when he got clothes, these clothes fit him perfectly. When he ran out of money, it's as if someone knew, and he'd find money. Sometimes on his way home, and he'd say, oh, God gave me this. Sometimes use it for tuition or for something else, but he could never find out who this person was, no matter how much he tried to see. So he thought that he'd have to suffer and go through junior high school, but he didn't have to work or suffer, and all he did was study. At the time, there was no high school. Once you graduated from junior high school, you went to college. So he went into college in the same way. In the same way, he received his college tuition. And when he graduated college, he also graduated with full honors as a class valedictorian, receiving the President's Award. And on that day of the graduation, instead of the real mother receiving the flower bouquets, praises and glory, the fake mother, who came from the countryside, took all the flowers, received all the praise, and received all the glory. The real mother did not receive one flower, but she didn't care. All she did was watch with tears. But she was so proud of him. She didn't care about the flowers. She didn't care about the praise. She only cared about that son. And she only watched him. After graduating college, he got married. On the day of his wedding, so many people came to attend the wedding. And all those who came to the wedding gave lots of envelopes filled with money. This real mother could not receive even one envelope or even a bow from her son or from her daughter-in-law. Instead, others came to the fake mother and gave her the money envelopes and congratulated her. This fake mother took everything, all the money, and didn't even give any money for his son to use on his honeymoon. Just took everything. This real mother received nothing. Not one envelope, not one of congratulations, not one bow. She silently went over to the newlyweds' car and dropped an envelope of money for them to use on their honeymoon. She didn't even use the money for herself. She saved all the money she had and she put it in the car. And as they left, far away, with tears in her eyes, she wished them true happiness. And she remembered her own unhappy past. And she only hoped that they would be happy. And she prayed for them. Of course, the fake mother took all the money and went home. Although his fake mother was so cold-hearted and unloving, he said to himself, oh, that's the way she is. He thought that's the way she was, that she never had love in her heart. But in the car, there was money. Even though his fake mother had taken all the money, someone dropped money, even in the car. The son got a good job with a new home. Because he graduated at the top of his class, all the companies wanted him. So he chose the best out of all those job offers. Then one day, the doorbell rang at the house of this young couple. When they opened the door, it was an old lady standing there. And this lady is asking to use them as a maid. So the son said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we're newlyweds. We don't need a maid. Please go somewhere else." So this old woman said, "Sir, I will work hard. I don't need to be paid. I'm an old woman. I have nowhere to go. Please, use me as your maid. I will work for you, and you don't have to pay me." This son had a very tender heart, like his real mother. And when he heard that she had nowhere to go, he felt sorry for her and welcomed her into his house. Meanwhile, his father was in the country, and he could not forget his first love, and all he did was drink. And finally, he got sick. He ruined his stomach and liver, and he died. So now his only living parent was his mother, now his housemaid. This old woman served the couple with such warmth and love. And because his mother had been separated from her son for so long, she treated him real well and worked so hard. And the couple became very attached to her and grew to love her. One Sunday, when this son didn't go to work, he said to her, "You know, you're so tender. You're like a mother to us." And this son kept looking at her more and more. But he noticed that she kind of looked like his first grade teacher. But her face was all wrinkled and worn due to all her sufferings and sacrifices for her son. And her hair was all white. But still, there was a faint resemblance. So he said, "Are you sure that you were never a teacher, a first grade teacher?" She said seriously, "Oh, you know, there are a lot of people who look like each other. Look at me. How can I be a teacher?" So he just kept staring at her. "You look like my first grade teacher." Anyway, every time he tried to talk about her past, she would always change the subject and talk about something else. And at meal times, although she set the table, she would eat on the floor. And she would only eat a little bit of rice and maybe one side dish. But of course, she made all the best, most nutritious foods for them. And if her daughter-in-law was doing the dishes, she just pushed her away and she'd do all the dishes all by herself. And even though she was in pain and she was sick, she never showed it. You know, in that time, even the wealthiest people could not put their children to college. But this frail mother alone made all the money and sent her son to college. So you can imagine that she didn't eat anything and she didn't buy anything for herself or spend money at all for herself. So her body was a mess through all those years of suffering. So she became old. Her whole body was a mess, all sick. But even though she's about to die and she was suffering in pain, she wouldn't show it at all. She did everything. And she would always smile. And when her son goes to the office, goes to work, and her daughter-in-law goes shopping, she collapses. Then when she hears the door opening, she would get up and greet her son and daughter coming home. So they never imagined that she was sick. Because she's human, she reached her limit. So this housemaid, this mother, collapsed. And she fainted. She couldn't hide it any longer. She had no more energy to even smile. But this couple was shocked She had never been sick. She had never been in pain. They had only seen her smiling and happy and healthy. So they called a very famous doctor to come. The doctor examined her thoroughly, and he said, this woman has a fatal sickness and she cannot recover from it. Her body is a mess. Her entire body is completely damaged and there's no way to heal even one part of her body. This was the doctor's final diagnosis. But this housemaid, she already knew. It was obvious. Even before the doctor came, she knew that she was going to die. So after the doctor left, this couple didn't know what to do. Lying in pain, this housemaid said, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for being so insistent about being your housemaid and then not being able to work for you. So they said, no, don't say that. You took such good care of us and you loved us so much and you didn't even take any money. We've been so happy up to now. We received love from you that we didn't even receive from our own parents. Please don't say that. Who else would do what you did for us and not be paid? Then suddenly, this dying housemaid's eyes sparkled with some strange determination. And for the first time, she said that she's going to tell a story about the past. Before she used to always change the subject or not answer any questions about her past, but now she's going to talk about it. So, with her last strength, she said, long time ago, there was a tender-hearted young woman. This tender-hearted young woman was married to the only son of the family, and they were so happy together. And she told him everything, including how she had been physically beaten, unjustly accused, disgraced in every way, and finally chased out by her mother-in-law. She told him about how she wanted to commit suicide and how she switched lunch boxes, school tuition, clothes. All of a sudden, he realized that she was talking about his life. Throughout his whole life, he tried to find out who that person was, giving him money and clothes. But even if he waited at night, he could never find out who it was. But it was her. And of course, he had told his wife about this. Someone always helped me. And this wife also knew. And both of them knew right away that it was her. It was his real mother. So she held on to her dress and said, Mother, why did you become like this? Why didn't you tell us sooner? Why did you do this? Mother, how could you do this? You're so unfair. You sacrificed your entire life for me. And you didn't even eat properly. You didn't buy clothes for yourself, but you bought it all for me. And now you're on the verge of death. You didn't even sit at the same table with us and eat the same food as us. Because she only gave all the good food for his son and for his daughter-in-law. But she only ate the leftovers. So now she was strengthless and she cannot be healed. They kept on crying, Mother, how could you ever do this? You're so unfair. So this mother grabbed her son's hand and said to him, his name is Insak. Insak, you're my son. I'm your real mother. Then she took the hand of her daughter-in-law and said, my dear, live happily. Don't become like me, but live happily together. And she died. This was the end of her life. And the couple, they were so filled with grief and tears. They beat their fists on the ground. They said, how can this be? How can this be? But her mother had already passed away. So this son was so filled with pain. He made up his mind to tell the whole world about the sacrifice of his mother and let the whole world know what she did for him. He wrote a book, My Unseen Mother, Who Was Always With Me. And he spread this book to the whole world. That mother is like our real father. Our real father was in the same situation. though our father begot us, he was chased out by the fake father Satan. He was chased out of those churches, and he was chased away from this whole earth. This fake father received all the offerings, all the tithes, all the glory, all the praise, all the worship, all the honor. While our real father, who truly begot us, was chased out from those churches. He was our father who followed us around in tears and gave us all that we needed. But we thought that it was those fake gods in those churches that gave us everything we needed. In reality, it was our real daddy who followed us unseen and gave us all that we wanted. Our daddy has been following us silently with tears. And instead of receiving the glory, he can only watch us from far off. And the fake father receives all the glory.
일생을 자식을 위해서 희생하시며 따라오신 우리 아버지. 그래서 이 마지막에 다
Our father sacrificed his whole life for us.
우리 아버지께 드리는 11조인 줄 알고 우리 아버지께 드리는
We thought that we had given him the tithe, and we had given him the offerings and the worship and the glory and praise him. But in fact, our father did not receive even one. Instead, that false father, that evil demon, that Satan took it all. So at the end, my father said
내가 너를 낳은 친아비란다.
to me, my son, Myung-ho, I'm your father who begot you and raised you. And when my daddy said that to me, I said, Daddy, how could you say that right now? Why did you do that?
세상에 이랬습니다. 그래서 나는 우리 아버지
I couldn't control the pain in my heart.
너무 원한이 돼서 난 책을 쓰기로
How did it happen like this?
십자가의
That's
피로
why I was so filled with grief and I had a broken heart that I wrote a book about our real Father's love, which is thicker than the blood of the cross and stronger than death of the cross. And I shared the book to the whole world, and that book went into your hands.
우리 아버지는 정말 우리에게 너무했어요.
You know, I still can't believe what my father did. How could he be like that?
그래서 저는 이렇게 써봤습니다.
That's why I wrote
무엇이 참
this.
사랑인가?
What is true love?
사랑. 무엇이 참 사랑?
Love, love, love.
우리
What
아빠가
is true love?
보이지 않게
Love that cannot be seen, like our daddy, is what true love is.
무엇이 참 사랑?
What is true
우리
love?
아빠같이 보이지 않게 울며
Like our
따라오시는
daddy,
것이
who unseen follows us weeping, is what true love is. Love, love, love. What is true love? Like our daddy who guides us without word or sound, is what true love is. Love, love, love. What is true love? Like our daddy who blesses from afar and gives to all unsparingly, is what true love is. Love, love, love. What is true love? Like our daddy, following persistently and even suffering to death for the sake of his children, is what true love is. Love, love, love. What is true love? Crying, lamenting, and dying together with his children, like our daddy, is what true love is.
호수창 듣고